This story is about Monica and Beck, which is myself and John, soul named John, John Beck. Anyways, what happened was, I remember watching videos at my dad's house, my given father, about Jim Carrey after his long depression. He had mentioned that he asked the universe for something and it was granted and it was answered. So during my engagement of Christmas 2016, what seemed to have happened was many people seemed to have invisibly and somehow managed to attack me around my place of living and around here due to an engagement with Paul Balthazar. Anyways, I had tried to get this guy John because a guy had gone around me and had said my name Jane. And I recall it since WizKid when I remember an invisible person had said, "Hey Jane, is your name Jane?" And that rang something in my soul. And anyhow, I had requested and asked for John. John had appeared with a long tongue, and I do remember these kind of species in WizKid where people had such long tongues they could actually reach their nose with their tongue. The wondrous mind of my given mother, an old lady, just didn't reach part in the thoughts of what might have happened, as her life similarly was most likely vicious as mine, with the karma and conversations that had flown through Asian territories and the globe. Her thoughts was it implants to claim I was once a monkey, but that didn't really matter because she does remember that I have an indent on my top buttocks. And stories like these have gone around me as it actually resembling a knife stab in my buttocks, as it is a dent. What raised upon me to these circumstances and situation was my indent looks like a knife jabbing on my top right buttocks. Year 2019, I had a lunch sit down with my sister and Paul Balthazar with Jesus Christ statue overhead and some junk lunch. My sister had brought up a story that I never heard before. She had mentioned a friend of hers told her the story. When I did see John appear in my kitchen, it seemed almost as another world was connecting to my world, my kitchen. And my kitchen is the color purple, and his sky, his world, everything seemed so real and so amazing. It was almost like it was almost like I remember when I was young watching MTV and I said, "Oh, I want to go be on the Real World show." But I mean, as I looked at it, it looked like it was fantasy like and very real, and it didn't seem as kind of like a computerized fake life that I have had, and fake but really suffering life. I mean, his world and what I saw, it seemed to have been a lot better. What happened then was it was almost like we were meant to kiss, have sex, and wed right away. But I just wanted to see my future with him, and what I saw was he had mated a bunch of women after. And the sex, I mean, it was going to be completely real. Nothing kind of like fake and silly as the sex I've had over all these years. But that's not something I wanted to do right away. And especially it being real and him leaving with someone else after, because that is not in my will or what I want for myself. What happened in the story about Jane Doe and John Doe, as I pieced this up, was in the original story about what happened with Jane Doe, John Doe. If no one seems to know it, if it's still theft or stolen, was they were living in this world similar to Eden, which with mystical stuff, and a bunch of random people were running after them with a bunch of daggers and knives, and they had to climb up a tree and to get away, pretty much, because they couldn't run away anymore. And as they went up the tree, they got stabbed and whatever else, and by the time they reached the top of the tree, a bunch of crows just went and ate their brains, which is their mind and their memory. So whatever happened to Jane Doe and John Doe next, who really knew, and who really does know? As it seemed to have affected so many people in the United States with memory loss and things like that, and they have all been labeled Jane Doe and John Doe. But as I piece this up, it makes sense to make the story that my sister had told me and informed me about to be Jane Doe and John Doe's incident that led to their death. Anyways, what I was trying to say was when I met John Beck, his name was Beck. What they gave him the name was Beck, but his soul name is John. And he appeared approximately 30, older than me, slightly older than me, like 37 or something like that, or 35. I'm only 32, but he appeared really amazing, and he's probably one of the most seductive blondes I have ever met in my life. I didn't really like anyone, really, that I met that I thought was really seductive or really anybody I actually did want to be with. But obviously it didn't stick or stay, so, I mean, the continuation of the story about couples, real life marriage, and real sex and things like that, including sin and will and baptism. I mean, this story goes on for a very long time, and I will take time to talk about it in this YouTube channel that I tried to explain in my book, but my thoughts are so jumbled up and so scattered all over the place that I couldn't seem to gather it together. Another part I did see was slightly ironic and slightly strange. In a movie that I watched about a male artist wanting a woman, and her given mother was sort of demonic and weird and evil, appeared kind of shriveling old lady, was busy chopping roses' heads. This story, as I piece it together and look at the big picture, must have been when Jane Doe and John Doe perhaps had real sexual relations. And just why did they get murdered? It's probably because it's not really their divine partner. As when we talk about divinity and things like that, and a divine couple, Adam and Eve were for sure the only divine couple documented and noted for the whole entire globe to know about. And for me to jump in to have a real sexual relation, would this just repeat a cycle of the same mistake that had happened before? And as a non-idiot person, I would obviously know that this would definitely perhaps lead to my death again.